Hello viewers and welcome to a new STM32 World video. Today we are going to talk a little bit more about timers. On the YouTube channel I had a comment on an earlier video, the tutorial number 11, where we are using multiple timer channels to generate pulse width modulation. And I had a question here. Is it possible for you to make a video on writing a function that can generate microsecond delay? Yes, I can do a video like that, but I am going to comment a little on this. And it is, if you need a microsecond delay in an application, it is probably something that is extremely timing critical. Otherwise, microsecond delay would not make sense. That's a million. There's a million microseconds in 1 second. It's a very, very short delay. However, there are better ways around it. That's my point. You should probably use a one-off timer with an interrupt or something like that. That you would be better off doing that. But anyway, I got the question, so I'll do the video. That is not a problem. Before I go on in this video, let me show you. Today I'm going to use the STM32F 411 black pill board. I change boards regularly, and that is part of the whole point of this video series, is that I don't want to do anything that is specific to one microcontroller. This will work with all of them, but there are minor differences, of course. Without further ado, I have created a project like I always do, and I call this blackpill_US microsecond underscore timer. And I have done the standard configuration. I have configured a UART, I have configured the SVD ports and a LED port and nothing else. But the important thing here is I have also configured another timer. And this timer is quite simple. The first thing we need to look at whenever we run the timer, we need to understand the timer clock frequency. And if we look at the clock configuration, you have timers hanging off the APB1 timer clocks, and you have the APB2 timer clocks. The STM32F411, those two are exactly the same. So we don't really have to think about this. The timer will be running at 100 megahertz. Otherwise, we would have had to look up in the datasheet which of these APB1 or APB2 buses a certain timer would hang off of. We also have to look at the timers. In fact, let me go over and actually watch it. So let's go into the official documentation. F411, that's the process, and let's look at the datasheet. About a handful of pages down in this datasheet, we will always find the block diagram of the MCU, and if we zoom in a little bit here so we can actually read it, I can zoom a bit more there. You can see you have these two buses, APB1 and APB2, and you have the timers hanging off those, and you will see over here on APB2 we have timer 1, 9, 10 and 11, and they're all 16-bit timers. Over on APB1 we have the timers 2, 3, 4 and 5, and of those timer 2 and timer 5 are 32 bits. Now if we're looking at microseconds, that's like a million of those in a second. So even a 32-bit timer will wrap around after roughly, I think it's 72 minutes, 72 minutes or thereabout, so an hour and 12 minutes or thereabout. So we are, in this case, we will be using timer 5 because it is indeed a 32 bit timer. What I have done here is simply configure this timer with a prescaler that divides by 100. And that brings us down from 100 megahertz down to 1 megahertz. That means it will count every microsecond, which is exactly what we need. I have also set the auto reload preload, so it will basically wrap around. It will count from 0 up to this value, and then it will start all over again from 0 once it has started. So that is about it. So let's generate the code as usual. And for those of you who have watched these videos before, I hate tabs, which they put in all over, so I will format it to use space instead. Anyway, in here, all I have done is, in the beginning, print out. We have our usual loop here, where I'll toggle the LED, and we will print out. So let's try it. So let's not do this just now. Let's just try to run it and look at the device. There we go, and it flashes the LED, so it is running. And let's look at the serial output. There, it will loop in this case about 10 million times. Okay, that's probably okay. So 10 million loops, so it's actually 10 million, so 10 times every microsecond it loops out in this one, which is okay. We need to start the timer, and you can see that here, HAL tim base start H time tim 5, which is the timer we configured. We don't need interrupt in this case, since we are not really using that interrupt, so we're just starting the timer, and the moment we start the timer, this counter will start running. Just for fun, just to show that it is actually working, let's try to fire this up in the debugger. Here we go. We are now breakpoint at the start of the main, but we have this feature over here where we can add live expressions. And for fun, I am following the UV tick. That is the normal sys-tick timer, which is incrementing once every milliseconds, but I'm also looking at the timer instance counter. So if we try to start this to continue, you will see here that you now have both values. You have the UV tick, which counts up. You can also see down here, I get the printout, right? But you will see the UV tick here is counting up, which is pretty much the values divided by 1000 that gets shown in the serial console. But you can see we also have the timer instance 5 counter, which counts much quicker, but follows the first 2-3 numbers are the same, because it's running at the same frequency as this. So we now have this counter at all times, which is the HTM5 instance CNT counter that we can use to create these microsecond delays if we so want, without an interrupt. So far this doesn't really cost anything. It's just the timer running in the background. Now, if we want to look at a very simple function for delay microsecond, it would simply be, well, we have the start time, which is that counter at that particular moment in time, and then we can add the delay that we want to delay, and we just wait for that to wrap around. So we do nothing. We just wait until that counter, we keep going as long as that counter is equal to end. Now, please pay attention to the comment here. I'm not going to fix this because I really think this is the wrong way to do it. But this will fail to do the proper delay at wraparound. So roughly once every 1 hour and 10 minutes, this will fail because it will return too quick. The moment we calculate this, if that one is lower than start, then this one will never execute because the counter at that moment in time will be smaller. It will not be smaller, it will be bigger than end, and this one will return immediately. So this is a buggy piece of code, but well, I mean, it's probably not recommended to do it this way anyway. So I don't really want to fix this. If we look down in the code, we can use this delay microsecond, and let's see if it makes sense. So that is actually what I indicated down here. So let's, in that loop, remember we keep that loop counter that we reset every second, so we can see how many times this loop is executed in a second. Now, if we try to do a delay of 10 microseconds, and let's try to, oh, stop that, the debugger is still running. And let's try to run that, and then let's look and see if this makes sense. Now, I would expect this to be roughly 100,000 loops. So it goes around, but where are we? This will loop very, very quickly. We had 10 million. We introduce now a 10 microsecond delay in each execution, so that should give us about 100,000 roughly. And just as a sanity check, if we set this one to 20 and try to execute it, this should drop to roughly 50,000. That would be my expectation. So let's try to execute that at 49,000 something. Yeah, there we go, 49,994. The overhead, the reason why this is not exactly 50,000 is obviously that these function calls are expensive. I execute this 50,000 times every loop, and for each of these function calls, the value is pushed onto the stack. These two variables are allocated on the stack. They are calculated, this loop is running, and then it's popping it off the stack again. There's an overhead that is not included in the actual calculation here, is ignored in that calculation. So, well, I mean, this was a relatively short video, and but I mean, it gave me a chance to talk a little bit more about timers, and I always appreciate talking about timers because they are great fun to play with, and we can actually do this delay microsecond in a different way. Just to give a little bit of inspiration for more coding, and I would love to see pull requests on the GitHub repository for this. To fix this delay microseconds, what we would do is we would check up here after we set these two variables if end is not bigger than start. If it's smaller than start, that means we will have to expect a wraparound, and we will have to do an extra check in this while loop to check if the wraparound. We could even just do an if wraparound is needed, do it this way. If wraparound is not needed, do it this way. I'll be happy to receive code, but I'm not going to fix it myself because I'm really not. It's not the way to do it. So I plan to end the video at this point. I actually did the outro, everything. Before I realized that I am a bit of an idiot, and there was a more elegant way of doing that. In the way this was implemented before, there was a problem, I mentioned that, with the wraparound. When that timer counter would wrap around at some point, then there would be an issue and the delay would be too short. But I just realized there's a more elegant way of doing this. So let me show you that briefly. First of all, I changed the counter a little bit. Rather than counting up like I did before, I will now be counting down. That means that the counter, and I actually don't need that auto reload. Okay, so it will start at some point and then it will count down to 0. If I don't configure it, it will count for a long time, in excess of an hour. But let's generate the code with this instead of what I did before. And let me show you what an elegant way of implementing this would be. Okay, so before I started the timer in the beginning, and I just let the timer run all the time. But actually, that timer does not need to run unless we are actually in our delay microsecond function. So a much better way of implementing this, and I left the old version up here with the problems and all, would be to do it this way. What I do is I remember the counter is actually not running at this point. I set the counter to whatever I want to set it to. Now I don't have to worry about the wraparound, because if the user sets a value that is bigger than a 32-bit value, then it won't work anyway. I mean, it will just wrap around here, so that's a user error. I set that counter value and then I start the timer and I simply wait for the timer to reach 0. It's as simple as that. So it will count down from whatever value we set and then it'll reach 0. So let's try to build the project with this. Where is my output? Is there. So I changed this, is actually running with 20 microsecond delay, so I would expect around 100,000 if this approach works. And I get 99,987. Of course, the extra delay is still that I am calling this function and it's not 100%. There's a little bit of time wasted there. And of course, down here, we are just cycling around this loop, doing other things in the loop. So, but this is pretty much fail safe as long as this delay microsecond is not called more than once at the time. It could theoretically happen if a user would call this in a interrupt service routine, which you should never do. So that is a user error. So this is actually a fairly solid way of implementing this delay, and it will work up to the full, so an hour and 10 minutes roughly. And that is about it. So now I'm ready to end this video. So thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something in this video. If you do, please like and subscribe. And if there's something you don't like, please let me know in a comment so I can improve in the future. That's it. Have a wonderful rest of the day.